What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So I know it's been out a couple weeks now. Hopefully a lot of y'all have had the chance to catch up on Andor Season 2. Spoiler alert, I think this is some of the best Star Wars that we have ever gotten. But before I get to why, first of all, I just want to say this will be a spoiler-free review just because I know the ratings for this show haven't been great, and I definitely want to encourage people to go watch it that maybe haven't seen it yet. So I'm going to do the best I can to avoid spoilers. There may be some mild ones here and there, but nothing that is going to deter from the overall plot. And also, before we get started, if you guys wouldn't mind just subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'm really trying to grow and branch out here. And so, yeah, just, leaving a like, comment, subscribing, all of that will help tremendously to growing this channel and giving the best content back for you guys. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into this. And right off the bat, I just want to say Andor is phenomenal. I mean, if you couldn't tell by me saying this is some of the best Star Wars we've ever gotten, I mean every word of that. It is far and away the best out of the Disney era Star Wars, and I'd argue some of the best since the original trilogy, for sure. First and foremost, the characters are just so complex. I mean, these are far and away some of the most complex characters I've seen, not just in Star Wars ever, but I would say in really any show or movie in a very long time. Cassian Andor is such a really multifaceted character. We've really come a long way from kind of him being largely more or less one-dimensional in Rogue One to really just becoming one of the most intriguing characters in the Star Wars saga. His willingness to sacrifice, his willingness to win against the Empire no matter what, just adds such depth to his character. Luthen Rael, who, if you've seen the first season, which if you're watching this, I hope you've at least seen the first season of Andor. But yeah, Luthen Rael, again, just a really complex character, really deep character. He's the one that was basically recruited Andor, that basically kicked this entire two-season story into motion. And you really see in season 2, he's not like he's a good guy, but he also does some really questionable actions that sometimes could even mirror that of the Empire. But you also realize that he's doing it for the greater good, so it does add that complexity to, should you sometimes, is there morally gray areas, I guess you could say, like, is there sometimes bad things that can be done for the right reasons, and does that make it right or wrong? And it's just a really cool way to kind of look at certain characters, especially in what has predominantly been usually a very kid-friendly brand. And then you obviously got Clea, I hope I'm saying her name right, I'm going to go with Clea here. Very close to Rael. Again, she kind of has that museum shop area, I believe it was, in Coruscant. And you just find out so much about her character, specifically in the last 3 episodes. It's just absolutely brilliant, honestly. There's one of my favorite, one of the most thought-provoking moments in all of Star Wars happens, I want to say it's at the end of episode 10 or 11. It involves her going into a hospital and doing something, and for those that haven't seen the show, not going to give anything else outside of that. Those that have seen the show, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a bit controversial, but at the same time, it just really honed in everything that this series was really building up towards about the cost of war, the cost of what would it take to win. And it is such a brilliant moment that when that moment happened in the hospital with this character Clea, it just blew my mind. Like, my jaw was on the floor. It was so good. And then you obviously got Mon Mothma, who is such an interesting character as well. We obviously know that she's in the original trilogy as well as Rogue One, Rebels. So she's been in Star Wars for quite a long time. But again, just the way that she's willing to really put the stuff that she puts her family through in this season is just really, it's really messed up in a way, but at the same time, she's doing it because she feels like she has no other option. And again, she's looking through a broad lens rather than a narrow lens, and she's trying to figure out, yes, my family, if I put my daughter, my family, all of them through this, at least they'll be safe from that. And again, it's just really brilliant writing across the board for all these characters. I would also be remiss not to point out Dedra and Cyril, I believe his name is. Both of these characters, again, they were in season 1, and just here, once again, their arcs that we've already seen them go on are just so much more fleshed out this time around. Both of these characters, specifically Cyril, he's doing what he believes is right, and he's following orders without fully understanding the ramifications of it. And it's stuff we see in our own world today, where it's like, I'm being told to follow orders, I'm being told that we're the good guys, but are we really the good guys? And I just love the angle that they take that with this character in this. And I mean, in case this wasn't obvious, the storytelling in the series is just so rich, it is so impactful. The Empire is absolutely scary again, which I full on love. I mean, this is far and away the scariest we've ever seen the Empire. Like, we laugh at the original trilogy, and obviously, like, you know, even Clone Wars and Rebels, which they had their, you know, darker episodes, for lack of a better term. But, you know, the Empire's just never been all that intimidating outside of, like, maybe Vader or somebody. I mean, the Stormtroopers can't aim, this and that. It's just, you know, a lot of times the Empire, because again, Star Wars is a kid's brand, so they can't make it too scary. But because Andor is really willing to push the boundaries, Andor is willing to be really the first full-on adult Star Wars content we've gotten. Trust me, all I'm going to say is by the end of this season, you're not going to be talking about the Stormtroopers not being able to aim anymore. They put that to rest. And again, what makes the Empire scary isn't because we get like a Darth Vader reference or cameo. It's not because it's built on the foundation of the Sith or even Palpatine. But the Empire is scary again because the way that they portray these troopers, the way that they portray this Imperial military, whatever you want to call them, they just do a fantastic job of really raising the stakes and elevating the situation to the point where you see that this is what's going on in our own world. I mean, you can just look at wars going on right now. You can look at wars that have happened in the past, years ago, and just how people are willing to give up their freedom on a moment's notice. And in doing so, you really see how these totalitarian regimes, for lack of a better term, that they can just seep in and slowly take away everything you hold dear until one day you wake up and it's all gone. And they just do a really good job portraying that with the Empire. And obviously, kind of going off of that, there's a very timely political angle to this. I know some people are trying to like blatantly make this into a, you know, U.S. politics thing, but I don't think it's so much that. I mean, we've clearly seen in a lot of ways, no matter what side of the political spectrum you fall on. Obviously, I'm not going to get political here, but, you know, just no matter where you stand in terms of U.S. politics or world politics, you've really seen, again, kind of like I mentioned, these totalitarian empires really just take over. You've seen countries come to ruin throughout history, and I would say more so than ever before. You know, there's such a fear of, is the government encroaching on our rights? How much is too much? Should we be protected, but how much so, to the point where the protection really just turns into control? And all of that is just explored so wonderfully in this series. And kind of going off of, you know, the thematic material in the show, just the actual way that this is filmed is just absolutely jaw-dropping. The cinematography is next level. I mean, there's shots and scenes in this that feel like they're more in line with Dune, or at least something like an HBO show, than a Disney Plus Star Wars series. I mean, I might even go so far as to say Tony Gilroy, between Andor Season 1 and 2 and Rogue One, has given us far and away the best cinematography of anything Star Wars. And the music, it's not your traditional Star Wars music. It's more along the lines of, let's say, this kind of dystopian, Blade Runner-esque feel to it. And it just really fits the vibe and what Tony Gilroy is going for really, really well. I just adore the music, the Andor theme, the Neemos Club, if you remember that from, I think it was episode 7 or 8 of season 1. Very highly regarded piece of music in that episode. It comes back here and it's just done so wonderfully. And kind of already touched on this, but the world building elements are just so good. I mean, this is the most fleshed out we've seen the underground, or I guess kind of ground level aspect of Star Wars. This is far and away the most fleshed out that we've ever seen it. And, you know, just, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, the way that this show is expertly able to make, you feel like you're at ground zero, that you're looking at this through the perspective of everyday people. Because guess what? Lightsabers, Sith, Jedi, those words are never once mentioned in both seasons of Andor. And that's what I think is so cool. It's just fleshing out the mythology and the world building of Star Wars, but it's not really caring about the Jedi, the Sith, everything we've come to know and love. So it's fleshing Star Wars out in a way that we really haven't seen fully fleshed out before. And I just think it's really awesome. The action scenes, I don't want to give the impression, for those of you that haven't seen the series, that this is an action-packed series. There's not a ton of action. There's about maybe 1 or 2 action scenes per 3 episodes, because there's 12 episodes, and like for every 3 episodes is basically one arc or mini movie, as I basically called it. So there's not a ton of action in those, but the action we do get is very solid. It's very crisp. I think they used a lot of practical effects for a lot of those, and it just really worked. Some of the best action in the Star Wars pantheon, especially under Disney. And as for my favorite arc, because again, each episode, this is supposed to be 5 seasons of Andor, but as we know, and as a lot of you probably know as well, they basically split each season up into 3 episodes. So like, you know, each 3 episodes covers a year leading up to Rogue One. And between all 4 arcs, 7, 8, and 9, the Gorman Massacre arc might be, that alone might be the second or third best piece of Star Wars content I've ever seen in my life. It is straight up 10 out of 10. If it was a movie, absolutely 10 out of 10. I mean, it's a masterpiece. It is so good, and I'm not going to give anything away other than that for those of you guys that haven't seen the series yet, but it's absolutely phenomenal. I highly recommend checking it out. Obviously, I like watching the entire season, but you know, when you get to 7, 8, and 9, it is some of the most nail-biting Star Wars, some of the most nail-biting television that I've ever watched. I want to say episode 8, I believe, was like the highest rated TV episode of any series like ever. I think it was like a 9.9 out of 10. So yeah, it lives up to the hype, trust me. And last but not least, the way that this film, or the way that this season, I should say, ties into Rogue One, the original trilogy, it does it in a way that just absolutely works. Like, you could seamlessly watch season 2 and then just boom, go into Rogue One, and it's going to basically feel like the epilogue to Andor season 2. And they just, again, the way that these characters are kind of set up, the way that you see their arcs, it just makes Rogue One even better in retrospect. And I do want to point out that, you know, one of my biggest issues, or really my only issue with Rogue One, was that the characters weren't quite as interesting as I felt like they should have been. And while I'm not excusing that, like, I think a movie should stand on its own, should stand on its own, I should say, and not have to rely on other pieces of media to make it better in retrospect. I do wholeheartedly agree with that, but I'm going to tell you this, like, the fact that it didn't, you know, the fact that this season of Andor, and really both seasons of Andor, but season 2 in particular, that I think it just made at least half of those characters so much more compelling, because you obviously got Saw Gerrera, you got Andor, and you understand these motivations. Orson Krennic, which isn't a spoiler, he's in the trailers, that was in Rogue One. He's also in season 2, so it's just added so much more layers and depth to Rogue One, to where I can't necessarily say, well, the problems I had with Rogue One are now discarded, because again, a movie should be able to stand on its own and not have to have other properties or other pieces of media to, you know, basically give it support. The fact is, I'm going to never look at Rogue One the same again, and it just made me appreciate it in a whole new light. I mean, it was always my favorite Disney-era Star Wars movie, but it may have gone up even a couple notches just because of this season of TV. And again, I mean, you could easily watch Andor Season 1 and 2, Rogue One, and then just go right into the original trilogy, and it is just... it would be amazing. I mean, I'm honestly planning on watching Rogue One hopefully in the next week or 2. It's been crazy, but I was going to do it like a week ago. But yeah, I'm planning on watching Rogue One and just probably appreciating it 10 times more than I ever did. And that's saying a lot, because I loved it the first few viewings that I've seen of it. But yeah, I guess moving on to the negatives. And these aren't really so much negatives in and of themselves so much as it is just kind of probably more my thing than anything else, because it's still masterfully crafted. It's just, I feel like the first couple episodes, I guess you could go ahead and say the first arc of this season, it starts it off promising. Like, it's not bad by any means. Again, the visuals are there, the writing is definitely spot on, but it starts it off a little slower than I would like. And I think a good point of reference would be if you've seen season 1, how the first couple episodes, it really takes a while to kick it into high gear, but then once it starts going, it doesn't let up. That's pretty much exactly how I feel here about season 2. The first arc isn't all that great. It's not bad. It's not horribly written. I mean, the production value is definitely there, but as for which one, it just didn't really resonate with me as much. It's far and away those first 3 episodes. But yeah, there's that. And then I think also, and kind of the biggest problem where this was then arc 1, I feel like there was a bit too many characters and subplots that were thrown at me, to where for me personally it just felt a bit difficult to keep up with all of them. And I do understand, again, Andor is supposed to be a whole 5-season series. Each 3 episodes was basically supposed to, from what I could gather at least, be expanded into a actual season of television. So, at the end of the day, I'm glad that we got the Andor story told through TV. And, it's not a massive complaint. I understand that, I'm probably just dumb and I can't keep up with more than 3 or 4 storylines. But it is worth noting that it does take a lot of brain power to kind of keep up with where each person is, especially if you haven't watched Andor Season 1 in a while. If you just come off Andor Season 1, it's not quite as bad, but if you really haven't watched Andor Season 1 since, let's say, I think it came out in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. If that's the last time you saw Andor Season 1, then you're going to at least want to go on YouTube and look up a refresher for what happened. That's all I'm going to say. But, yeah, outside of that, though, guys, this is amazing. I mean, I enjoyed Skeleton Crew. I enjoyed parts of The Acolyte. I've enjoyed The Mandalorian, but I can't help but just feel like the past couple years, I've just felt so burnt out on Star Wars. Everything has felt so redundant. Everything has felt like it's just playing so safe to the most common denominator of just cheap fan service. But then Andor Season 2 comes along, and it took what was already probably my favorite piece of Star Wars content under Disney with Andor Season 1, and it just elevates it to a whole nother level. The storytelling is rich and complex. The characters are some of the most morally gray yet intriguing characters we've ever gotten in Star Wars. The production value is absolutely there. There is not one even remotely shoddy scene of CGI in this entire series, and they find a way to not rely on just cheap nostalgia, but actually, whenever we hear about something that we know in the original trilogy or a character that we know in Rogue One, it's always done to serve a purpose for the greater story, which I just think is absolutely fantastic. And that is why I absolutely love this season of Andor, and I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. If you haven't checked out this show, guys, once again, please check it out. Please let Disney know that this is what we want. And obviously, I'm not saying that all of these have to be necessarily, that all future Star Wars projects have to be more adult-oriented and they have to have these complex themes and whatnot. I mean, we can have our Mandalorians and we can have our Skeleton Crews and we can even have our Kenobis for that matter. We can obviously keep Star Wars a kid-friendly brand, but I also don't want Disney to shy away from, hey, a lot of those people that watch Star Wars, they're adults. They can handle these kind of storytelling. So same thing with Marvel. I just implore you guys to check out Andor Season 2. Let Disney know that we can live in a world where there's both Star Wars geared more toward an adult audience as well as for children and teens, because obviously, I'm going to probably have kids one day and I'll look forward to showing them Star Wars. I don't want to be like, well, we're going to watch Star Wars when you turn 13 or 14. We can live in a world where both things coexist. And yeah, guys, but that's all I got for today. Let me know in the comments down below. Did you love Andor Season 2? Have you seen Andor Season 2? And I guess if so, what did you think about it? Just let me know in the comments, guys, down below. And as always, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And I will catch you all later. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you liked what you've seen here and you want to see more, please feel free to like, subscribe, share, and check out my other videos in the link in the description down below. And I will see you all later.